Well, good evening, you fine people. Thank you very much for popping in tonight and joining us on tonight's live stream. As always, great to have Imran here to join in. We're going to be talking tonight, again, like we did last week, about if we were going back to start up a business, a web design business for ourselves, how would we do things differently? What would we do differently? What would we put into place? And as always, this is our opinions, our thoughts, our experience, but we want yours as well. So if you've got questions, put hashtag Q so I can easily... Oh, bear with me. I've Right. Sorry about that. I just muted myself on YouTube, which was coming through my headphones at the same time. Anyway, back on track. I'm so unprofessional. So tonight, like I say, we're going to be talking about, we want your questions as well. So hashtag Q if you've got anything you want to ask us, anything to do with this. If you want to sort of like more general kind of conversations afterwards, keep to about the last quarter of tonight's live stream and we can just have a sort of general AMA session. But to start off with, kind of focus on the whole, if we were starting out in business, how would we go about it? So, Imran, how are you doing this evening? I'm going to say hello to you, pass you over a little bit, and then we're going to say a couple of hellos for who's joining us tonight. So, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing okay. Been a very busy week. Surprisingly, I made sure I had no clients this week so I could work on our super course and other stuff. But it's been a very, very busy week. And you know when, like, even though you're not doing any web design work, but you have potential client phone calls and meetings,
Oh, yeah.
the week just flies by. And I still can't believe it's Wednesday evening. Like, the week has flown by really, really quickly.
It's frightening how quick it's actually gone by. I mean, it seems to be it's like Sunday and then it's Friday. And it's like, what happened to the bit in between?
Yeah.
You know, which I suppose is better than a week that
Exactly.
drags, you know, but, you know, that's good. That's
Yeah,
good.
absolutely.
So,
No, absolutely, yeah.
let's do a couple of hellos, and then we're going to briefly talk about your new course that's coming out. So you can have a little bit of a chat about that. We can have a discuss what's going to be included in that and how people can find out a bit more information about it. And then we'll crack on with tonight's topic. So who do we have in this evening? It's good to see Carl back. Good to see you back in Dubai. I hope you're doing super, super well, young man. I know you've had a bit of a tough time recently. T is good to see you in. Gasali, I hope I'm saying that correctly. Maddie, good to see you in as well. Diana, Steve, Tees, John, always good to see you as well. We've got Sevi Webb, good to see you in tonight. Pez, Rich, good to see you guys in. We've got Derek in. We've got Davey Dennis, good to see you. Dan Winters in. And we've got Own Discount. Michael D, good evening to you all. Thank you very much for joining in tonight. As always, if you do get value out of tonight's live stream, be sure to hit that thumbs up button. It really does help us out. It tells YouTube that you actually like what we do around here. So, Imran, this new course that you've got coming out, do you want to tell us a little bit about it and what it is, how people can find out more about it, what it includes, and the whole kind of ethos behind it? Because I think it's kind of relevant to what we're covering in these videos, in these live streams. So, over to you, young man.
Yeah, it does kind of sandwich in quite well to what we're talking about. And it's basically about how over like the last 2 or 3 years, not just on YouTube, but outside as well, we were continuously giving advice to new businesses and to some of our clients as well, who are nothing to do with websites, about starting off your business, your marketing, your research, understanding your overheads, your price points. How can you satisfy a client's pain points, or how do you do proposals or close deals and difficult clients? You know, kind of a lot of the stuff that we commonly talk about and we're doing in these discussions. And what we wanted to do is create a course where this time it wasn't just about Elementor or Bricks or WordPress. It is about web design, but a lot of you could almost say that 95% of what we teach in there, you could apply to any business as well. But it was kind of wrapping it all up, and I did want to approach it in a very different way. So rather than me just giving you lots of videos and stuff, I've tried to make it as easy to understand and digest and accessible to lots of people. And you'll see like snippets of some of the examples of how I'm presenting the info. But if you go over to websquadron.co.uk, on the homepage, you can't miss it. It's one of our call to action buttons. But you know, you don't have to do this, by the way, okay? I would love for you to sign up and get on board with this, but it's trying to help guide a lot of people who are starting a new business, or maybe you're struggling to grow and scale upwards. You know, maybe you got to a point where like, well, how do I get more clients? Or I'm continuously building websites for $500. How do I break that psychological barrier I've got in my head. How do I start achieve more? And we've all been there. We were there, and now we're charging nearly 10 times what we were charging when we first started off. How did we get there? It wasn't easy, but you sometimes just need someone to give you a bit of guidance or to make you think differently. Because until someone does, you always think, well, that's all I'll charge, because that's what they pay on Fiverr or anywhere else. But if you want higher paying clients or better projects, you gotta break out a little bit. But that's about it, basically. There you go. There's my 10-minute political broadcast.
There's your sales pitch. Okay, so this kind of does lead us on nicely onto what we were talking about before we kind of came on here, which is how much do you give away for free, if anything? So, for example, let's just say a potential client contacts you, you get a phone call, an email, whatever. What do you give them for free? What do you do to start off with? I mean, do you nurture that potential client? What's your experience with this? Because I know this is something that you're interested in and you've kind of been talking about on your live streams, and we've kind of had a chat about it and so on. I mean, what's your approach to this? How much do you give away for free? And what kind of things do you kind of consider something that's useful to kind of nurture that potential client, as opposed to just giving something away for the sake of giving something away? I mean, what are your experience and your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I always like to say that, like, the very first call, what I call the first contact, and maybe even the second one, you're trying to gauge and find out more about them. So in fact, I'm trying to get more out of them to help me with my decision making. And you got to be thinking on your toes quickly, understanding what they tell you about, why do they need a website, what are they trying to achieve with it. So I try and get some out of them. Now, what they get from me is I will start to drop in what I call nuggets. So I'll start to say things like, have you thought about your domain? Have you thought about your hosting? Have you ever had a website built? And you basically say stuff that I think is free and easy to give away, and it's not going to cost you anything. Like, have they thought about their logo, their color, example websites? And you make notes in the background as they're talking. And when you start to ask them questions about, well, what are you trying to achieve? And why do you need a website? Can you tell me more about your clients? They might spend 5 minutes talking to you, okay? But it empowers them. And what I remember is I hate cold calls. You know when people call you up? But whenever they do, the first thing they say to you is, hey, how was your day? Because they want you to feel good, don't they? They want you to get excited and happy. And I'm like, I kind of tell them how my day is now going after they've called me. But what they're trying to do is get into your head. But if you say to the client when they call up, yeah, you want a website? Fine, yeah, we can do that. What do you want or whatever? Before you fully understand them and their business, it can put them off a little bit, or you might give them a false sense of security. But if you imagine right now someone called you up and they ask you about your business and what you do and what you want to achieve, wouldn't you feel a little bit like they care? And if you respond to that, so if the client then says, okay, I'm a landscaper, and you start to go, okay, I'm assuming then you're looking at a green or yellow kind of website, or are you thinking about something different? What do your friends do or your competitors? Whereabouts are you based? I'll spend 5 minutes doing a quick Google search on other landscapes in your area. And literally, that's all you would do. Don't spend more than 5 minutes Googling other landscapers in that area. That's all you do. They're going to feel like you're in their head. But that's about as much as I do for free. That is literally all I'll do. I'll get a bit more details. I won't start to go into now, this is exactly how we're going to do your website. These are the steps. These are the plugins. Oh, you want a shop? I'm not even going to mention WooCommerce. If a client comes to me and says, oh, I want to sell shoes, I'll go, okay, how many products have you got? Have you sold before? Have you thought about your shipping? So I'm giving away stuff they could easily get off ChatGPT. Basic stuff that they should already be thinking about. It's not costing me anything. I'm just stating the obvious, but I won't even say WooCommerce. I won't even talk about product filters, Because now when I know we're ready to go to... In fact, I'll stop there in case you wanted to add anything in before I go on to where I go next. I'll stop there.
I think this kind of leads on to what we talked about in last week's live stream, which is, you're kind of trying to find out, you're doing your fact-finding kind of thing.
Yep, that's it.
So it's kind of interesting. I mean, it does kind of marry up to some of the other sort of stages, I think, of the project, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to qualify that prospective client. You're trying to suss out what they're looking for. There's no point in telling the technical side of things because most people don't care about the technical side of things. They just want that solution to their problem. Whether that's a case of, I want to sell online, but don't know how to do it. Well, that's why they're contacting someone like you to deal with the technical aspect of it. So this is it's kind of interesting to see where you're going with this, because do you have a sort of set pattern for this, or is this just you will have a conversation that's just an open, relaxed conversation with no specific questions in mind? You'll kind of let the prospective client kind of lead the way, or do you have like a sort of set series of questions that you need to have answers to be able to move on to, maybe a project proposal, or maybe to arrange a more sort of formal meeting with them? What kind of process do you go through there?
Okay, well, I'll tell you where I want to get to. I'll tell you how I get there. So I want to get to what is their budget, when do they want it delivered, and do they understand what they're asking for? And how we get there, there's no set script, and it might be they tell me bits, or I have to kind of prompt them a little bit. So what I'm almost doing is, if you imagine a client calls up like 10, he sends an email out to 10 web designers, whatever. He's then going to assess them. When a client contacts me, or however we get into contact, I'm actually assessing them. So even if they say, I want to work with you and I've got a budget of whatever, and the budget is nice and juicy and whatever, I'm actually assessing them. Do they even know the basis of their website, what they want? If they say to me, I haven't got a deadline, that then makes me go, right, this is going to be a job that drags and drags and drags because there's no urgency in completing or whatever. Do they have a budget in mind? So I'm assessing them, and what I really want to get is, whether they lead it or I lead it, I want to get to the point where if by the end of the first call, I don't know the budget, when they want it by, do they understand what they're doing? Have they thought about colours or anything like that? Just, it doesn't have to be exact, no hex codes, just a gist of what they want. That then starts to tell me, is this worth going further? Is it worth another phone call or another video call? Because you might have killed off half an hour of your time. Is it worth another half hour or another half hour here or there? Is this someone where, when we now start to get into are we going to get to the point where before we really start to hone in on exactly how everything's going to look, we're going to have a proposal with a contract, or however we do it? In fact, I don't even like to call them proposals anymore. I like to refer to them as action plans.
Okay.
So I'm almost saying to them, it's like, this is what we're going to do. But even then, even then I don't go into specifics until I know they've paid a deposit or something, because I've been burnt before. In the past, in the old days, on the phone call, we've all done it. The very first phone call you get with a client. Oh yeah, we'll do this. We'll use Elementor Pro. We'll put WooCommerce in. Themify, great product filter system. And we'll do this and do that. And we'll make sure we, X, Y, Z. And this is what it will cost. When the client disappears. Or you give them a full-blown proposal document. They disappear. And you've literally spelled out a specification, on how to build the whole goddamn house for them. So now I hold back. And I have to say, the very first time I did it, I was like, this ain't going to work. And a few times we lost jobs. Now, it's never failed us one bit. Because there are some clients who don't like it. But you know what? That I sometimes, like I've said in the previous calls, Paul, I treat every job that comes in like, if I get it, I get it. If I don't get it, I don't care, kind of thing. So that I am not upset at all. And when we get them, I know we're now working with someone who's kind of on our wavelength, or we complement each other, kind of thing.
So you're basically pre-qualifying the client. That's what effectively what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think what you're saying there, and I can kind of understand where you're coming from with it, because I think as you sort of get more confident, you probably do this without even thinking. You know, you are pre-qualifying that client. You're finding out, is it going to be a good fit? But also kind of looking at how much effort have they put in. You know, if someone comes to you with, you have that phone call, you have that initial meeting, and they're literally a little bit sort of, I don't know. I kind of leave it to you. I mean, you're the professional. That to me is a red flag straight away. It's like, and I'm never going to work with you because you can't make a decision to start off with about what you want, and you're not going to be happy with anything that I supply. That's the way I kind of see it.
Can I just jump in?
Sure.
Yeah, can I jump in there for a moment? Just to say that I know that for those of you that know Vito from Atarim, they are very successful in what they do. And Vito, behind the scenes web design agency, very, very successful. He actually is a little bit opposite. He doesn't mind if he works with a client who doesn't have a clue. He doesn't mind because they charge premium rates for websites. And the clients pay a lot of money because the jobs take longer to do, and they basically, Vito's agency basically decide what the client's going to have, basically. But that's okay. I mean, if a client came through the door and he says, hey, we'll give you £50,000 to build our website. We ain't got a clue, and we don't mind if it takes 4 or 5 months. Fine, I'll take that. But in reality, if you're building a website for £2,000 or whatever, and the client's like, I don't know, warning bells fire off in my head, like, no. We've been here.
Yeah.
Doesn't work out.
I think the thing is, I think the ones with the bigger budgets, they're going to be the ones that have usually got to answer to probably people higher up in the company. So they're generally probably going to come in with a much better idea of what it is they want, what they need, as opposed to, like you say, your typical, I don't know, let's just say smaller business or individual or whatever that knows they should have a website, but that's about as far as it goes, and they've put no extra thought into it. Sometimes we can kind of look at the individual and have a conversation with the individual, and not everybody is in the same world as we are. Not everybody feels comfortable with what they're trying to achieve, and maybe knowing what they're trying to achieve. So that in part then is down to us to educate them and try to sort of, as Richard kind of says, you have to climb into their mind in order to cater for their requirements. You kind of do have to get an understanding of what they want. But I mean, Richard came up with a good point saying that in my world, often clients are surprised when I don't have a presentation deck when I come to a meeting. And I think knowing Rich and knowing the kind of things he's talking about here, I can imagine if you were in a sort of, like you say, that higher tier of design, where you're maybe talking the sort of 6-figure kind of web designs or, high 5 figures, then there probably is an expectation from people to go, okay, well, we expect you to present to us. We expect you to do a bunch of legwork beforehand. So it really is probably going to be down to the value that you bring in, the kinds of company, the kinds of budget you're dealing with, and those kinds of things. And I do agree with you about one of the first things, like with you. I mean, I've got a client questionnaire, which I don't follow religiously, as a starting point to answer, to get key answers to questions that are important to move on to the next stage. A budget is one of those areas that I know a lot of people, especially when they're early in their careers or early in their business, they don't feel confident to ask that question. But I think it's one of the most valuable things to pre-qualify a potential client. And I would also generally say that whatever they tell you, it's higher than that anyway. If they've got a 10 grand budget, they're probably going to tell you 5 grand. So, you've got to take it with a pinch of salt. But if they come in with 5K and you go, okay, that's fair enough. I know the bottom line we've got to work with now, and what they want would be 7.5K, there's going to be wiggle room. And as we talked about in the past, if you go in and say, well, these are all the things that you wanted to get that, this is what it's going to cost. And you go like, okay, well, our budget is 5K. It's like, well, if you want all of that, then you have to pay the extra. But if you want to keep your budget, then you have to drop some of the features. Like we said, you can't have good, you can't have fast, and you can't have cheap. Yeah. You can have 2, you can't have 3. And I think there's a lot to be said for understanding and gaining the confidence to be able to walk away from potential clients, to educate clients. Because one of the things I think when you're younger, not that either of us are particularly young these days, I know you're younger than me, but I think when you're younger and you're dealing with potentially older business people, there is a kind of disparity in confidence And confidence comes with
Yes.
with age, with experience, all those kinds of things. You don't get born with tons of confidence, and no, most people don't anyway.
Yeah.
So I think it's something you have to develop. And like I say, there's a lot of things that to start off with, we might be talking about, and people that are earlier in their careers might go like, I just wouldn't feel comfortable doing that. But you learn to be comfortable with it. You will become comfortable with it as you experience things and you gain in confidence.
Yeah, and what I will say is that when I was younger, I would never challenge, offer, even when I know that someone older than me in the office or whatever environment, and they were wrong, I wouldn't challenge it or feel comfortable, because age can play. I know it sounds weird, but age can play a factor with it. And it wasn't until I started managing people that were older than me that you realise actually age isn't a factor, but it is something that can psychologically play in your head. But yeah, that's a very good point you make, actually. Younger web designers will feel like, should I, because it is, I mean, in the early days, I never used to ask for the budget, and you would have like 1 hour, like I remember having like nearly a 2-hour meeting with someone, and it was like really going places, and then their budget was like £200, and I was like, you what? I said, you what? That doesn't even cover your hosting.
Exactly.
But yeah, so,
But this is something that you need to have in that discovery meeting, that discovery call, however you kind of do it, you need to have that as part of the process to be able to weed out the ones that are promising the world and they don't have the budget to deliver. And just finding those clients that you seriously want to work with. Because when you're early in your career, take the confidence side of things out of it. If you were just getting on that ladder, you want to take every job that comes in. And the reality of it is you could be a very, very busy fool very, very quickly. I mean, let me give you an example. This has nothing to do with web design, but I was a director in a design business years ago that dealt with sort of signage and all those kinds of things, and design and print and stuff, and web design and stuff like that. And it was run by one of the directors was a South African guy. And his kind of mentality, not that South Africa has anything to do with it, it's just, different cultures will have different approaches to different things.
Yeah.
But if someone came in and they weren't happy with the work he did, and this happened quite a lot because it was very much a case of get it done quickly, and if they weren't happy with it, he'd do it again and again and again. And if they weren't happy with the price, he would go, how much do you want to pay? It's like, who would ask, how much do you want to pay? Well, I want to pay 20 quid, but you're charging me 100. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, I don't understand the logic of get it done as quick as possible. And 9 times out of 10, you have to do it at least one more time because you've done a substandard job.
I think that's the haggling mentality. And I think you could, you could almost say there are certain areas in the world geographical where they're happy to lower and negotiate down, and they keep coming down, down, down. Whereas I'm a little bit like, there'll be a little bit of wiggle room, but I wouldn't feel comfortable saying to someone, yeah, okay, 100, but we'll do it for 20, because I would then, if I was the customer, I would say, so why did you charge me 100 in the first place then? It's like car insurance, right? If my car insurance company often say, oh yeah, we can knock off 100, I give them an earful about, so why were you going to charge me X amount in the first place then if you always had that wiggle room? But yeah, that comment you made about Bergwerk Studios, even though I mentioned a budget, I don't actually use the word budget. So even though I say I want to get to that, I don't use that word. It's very much what you're saying there. I find out what they want, and then I relay it back to them. I go, okay, your web design will be X, your SEO will be X. If you want to have the WooCommerce bit or the e-commerce bit, the add-on will be da-da-da-da-da. So I'm giving them like a very quick breakdown. But yeah, I don't like using the word budget either, because I do feel like some people do get defensive the minute you say that. But if you lay it out in your first contact, or even the second one, a very vague, breakdown of what the costs could be, and that's when conversations then go a next stage whereby do you need to now, like you said, do you need to knock things off because they can't afford it? And I find that when the client brings the cost down by 75%, but they've then actively said, right, we won't do the SEO, we won't do this bit as well, they almost feel empowered. For me, it makes my job easier because it's less stuff to do. You could argue, but you're getting less income. Well, actually, it now means the job won't take 5 days. It will take 3 days. So it means I've got time to do other stuff now. So don't think of it as lost income. Think of it as 2 days gained back to do other stuff and other work. But it actually, they feel empowered, believe it or not, because they now feel like, oh, I get to choose, do I? That's fine. You know, I don't mind. And it can help rather than you going, here's the cost, take it or leave it. That's what puts them off.
Yeah, I think,
wow,
from my
Rick
point of view...
walks away from a client.
Yeah, we'll talk about Rich in a minute now. To be honest, it's one of those things that I very quickly got into the habit of I will not discount the work. If someone comes along and says, right, okay, there's the proposal, and they go, that's out of my budget kind of thing, that's a bit higher. It's like, oh, that's fine, no problem at all. It's like, and that's where I say we'll strip features out or we'll strip services out. But I will never actually give a discount. I've drawn the line. It's like, I've put this together based upon the amount of work that I know is involved in it, and I know how much I will put into the project. And if that isn't valuable enough to you, then you can go to someone else because you're not a good fit for me. I don't like hagglers, as simple as that.
Can I tell you something I did? So we've got someone, they're an existing client, they want a website redesign. We gave them the quote. It's been delayed by 4 months, mainly because of people in their team just need to finalize something. And last week I told them everything I told you in that itemized breakdown, uplift everything by 30%. And they still accepted it. Because I said to them, it's been too long. I can't give it to you those prices. We haven't even signed a contract yet. But uplift everything by 30%. They're still okay with it. So don't, I'm very much like you. I don't go down. I don't. I now just say, I literally just say, look, you can see as clear as mud the itemized breakdown. You pick now. You're in control. Pick what you want, but I cannot adjust it. Otherwise, it doesn't work out as value for me. And if you stay confident and don't start to panic, right? Because the minute you drop prices, they know you will drop again and again and again.
It's like blood in the water.
So, because once you do it once you know someone drops... If you ever... Look, look, this is a really bad analogy, okay? But when I was young at university, went to the fish and chip shop and I ordered a steak and kidney pie, pucker pie, love them. The chip shop always gave me extra chips. And I remember there were 2 people at that chip shop and the female always gave me chips. And I noticed her husband, I could tell he didn't like it. But he always felt like he had to keep giving me... I never asked for it, but he felt he had to give some as well because it set a pattern in place. But that's it. Once you do it once... I mean, it was great for me. I got free chips.
Can't beat free chips with a pucker pie.
No. Yeah, exactly.
The thing is, I think this is where your initial kind of contact and some of the things that you've spoken about now kind of lead on to your proposal. Whatever you kind of call it, but your proposal for me is the next stage. Once you've kind of had that client questionnaire, that conversation, that fact-finding, finding out what they want, the natural thing, in my experience, the way that I've done it is you find out, is this going to be a potential good fit? Is it in their budget? Do they kind of have that scope there? And then I'll go away and create that project proposal. And as you said, I think this is where you itemize everything. And this is the point where you can kind of show them what they're going to get. You don't need to be technical about it, but you can show them so they've got everything itemized.
No.
And then if there's that kind of negotiation, you can look at that and go, right, okay, well, fair enough. You don't have the budget for that, we'll take that. Or you put optional things in there and you allow them to sort of go, oh, actually, that's quite good. You make suggestions based upon your skill and understanding of their goals, what they're looking to do. As we've kind of said, when someone comes to you with, they have a potential job, they want you to sort of solve something for them. They have a problem or they have a requirement and they look into someone like you, and someone like me, someone like the next person that's going to do this, to solve that problem, to give them the solution to that, to get them from A to B then. Like I say, if the thing is they want to create more contacts, sort of like more leads, then the job of the website
Yep.
is to do just that. And then your job is to interpret what they're asking for, what they're looking for, and provide the solution. And then in your project proposal, that's where you give them the breakdown of those features. And, you can add extra things in there if you think they would be valuable to those particular people. Then you can sort of drop that information in there, and then they can pick and choose. And one of the nice things, I don't know if you use any kind of digital platform for your project proposals, but for me, I use Better Proposals, and one of the nice things about that is you can put optional items in there, and then they can simply go in, check it or uncheck it if they want to add it or not, and then it'll give them a total, so they can modify that and to their heart's content. And then when they digitally sign it, that then is where you sort of go over to the next stage, which is taking your payment, your deposits, and stuff like that. So is that how you approach it, or do you have a different kind of way, and what kind of tools do you use to kind of move on to that proposal stage?
Yeah, so we're not as good with the electronic version. So ours is just, it'll be like a PDF file or something like that. I know. We even I haven't moved on to that stuff yet. I'm still using Nokia. No, but so the way we like it is I try and make sure that the page, I try and keep it to one page, and what I give them is what is the aim? What do they want? What is the aim they're trying to achieve? What is their goal? Like a paragraph. Then there's a paragraph about what we're going to do for them and how we're going to accomplish that, solve the problem. We're going to generate leads or get your shop up and running or something like that. And then we give them a breakdown of essential things that have to be done. If you want to get out there and achieve your problem or solve your problem, here's what you got to do. And it's broken down into itemized. Then we have desirables. So these are extra stuff. So what we're saying to them is you have a grand total. Let's say it's £2,000, and that £2,000 is made up of the essential and the desirable. But what we're saying is, if you don't want these desirables, fine, but you can still achieve solve your problem, but you got to get the essentials. You cannot remove the website build, okay? Because we just can't do that. So there's some stuff you got to do. But what we don't do in the proposal is give them a full-on explanation. So if we have said install and activate e-commerce, set up your shop, whatever, we don't say in there we're going to use XYZ unless there is an additional license cost. Then we have to let them know. In fact, we even go as far as saying total license cost would be, I don't know, $100 one-off or $200 a year, whatever. But we don't specifically explain single product template, shop template, do this particular filter. We don't go in that detail because we give them enough. But at the same time, it's not just because we don't want them to run off. It's because we don't want to bombard them with info as well. It's a bit like when you take your car to get serviced or whatever. Sometimes I don't like it when the garage kind of put really detailed stuff. And I sort of look at it and go, I do not understand what this means. I'm like, does this mean you did the oil in the car? Does that mean you refilled the oil? They go, yeah. I go, well, just put that then. Don't put the make and brand. I don't even do it myself. I don't understand it. Just tell me you did that. What am I paying for? So if you keep it really simple and easy for them to understand, especially if they're part of like a stakeholder team and maybe they've got to get sign off. Look, one thing you'll come to understand when you work with big organizations, the higher up you go, the simpler it's got to be. They don't have time to read reams of paper. They just want to know, well, doesn't it do that? Does it do that? Right? They don't want acronyms. They don't want funky words. You put Elementor, it means bugger all to 99% of your clients out there, right? So you're just going to say, build the website, whatever, right? So cut long story short, what is the problem? How we're going to solve it, essential, itemized, and the cost, desirables, final cost, and anything else that we expect them, to have in place if we're not covering it. For instance, your domain, your hosting, we would need to have access or stuff like that. But it sounds like a lot, but you can, if you're very methodical, get it onto one page. Because I'm just thinking of the fact that if they are passing that off to someone else, if it's on one sheet, it's easier to read. Yes, there will be extra pages for the contract terms and blah-de-blah and lots of other stuff, but I try to make sure on that one page, you know, did I like it? You know, did I want to go ahead with it?
It's interesting to see how we've got slightly different approaches. It's the same end result, but slightly different approaches. I mean, I don't tend to go into detail, or I don't really do it much these days as like I used to, but I never really tended to go into too much detail. It was more a case of a breakdown of what was included. For example, like I say, e-commerce, install e-commerce module or e-commerce software. Again, I don't go into details. Most people don't care whether you use WordPress or you know, whatever the next thing is, or you build it yourself. It's more just a case of, right, how do we solve the problem? But I would give a breakdown, and I would go into semi-specifics if need be. So, for example, if part of it was, you know, you'd create, a custom module that is like listing properties for sale, for example, not like a real estate site, but it's like there's something on this custom. Then I would include in the breakdown there of what that would include in it. In other words, very, very basic, like, you know, you'd have like a front-end dashboard, for example, and you'd have a details page, a listings page. So when they kind of look at it, it would mean nothing to most people. But then if you ever get sort of pulled up on it, it's like, well, you said you were going to do that. It's like, that's right. And there's that page, there's that page, there's that page. Most of the time, it will never happen. But in the same way that I like to itemize the included things, the must-haves, the sort of things they have to have, and the nice-to-haves, the optional extras, whatever, I still think there's a certain level of, it makes sense to have at least a little bit of a breakdown in there so people can look at it and go, okay, that is in there. You know, if they ever get pulled up, it's like we say, well, there you go. There's what we outlined, and there's where it is inside the site. Not that it's ever really happened, but there's always a potential to have it happen. But yeah, I don't think you need to go into too much information, because I think most people, as we've already said several times, don't care. They just want the solution.
Yeah.
The tech behind it, couldn't care less. Like you say, elemental, or as Rich would say, smelly mental. You know, it doesn't really matter too much what it is. It's just like, does it do the job? Does it get the end result that I want?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So what's Rich saying? Yeah. Right, so Rich is saying, no matter how long and detailed your proposal document is, the first thing they will do is skip to the last line with the total cost. My last line is where they digitally sign it, Rich. Yeah. But again, one of those things, this is why you want to take a look at something like Better Proposals or Bid Sketch or any of the other services out there. One of the nice things about them is they'll actually allow you they'll monitor exactly how much time anyone that logs into that proposal has spent on any of the different sections. So you've got your sort of your problem, you've got your solution, you've got your breakdown, you've got your pricing on that, and you can see exactly how long people have stayed on the different parts of the thing. And I'll tell you now, 99.9% of potential clients will look at the problem, the solution, very, very quickly, and then they'll spend 90% of the time look at the price in the breakdown.
Yeah, they do. They do.
It is what it is. You know, that's where they're making the decision. They're looking at what you include.
To be honest, though, prior to when they do get that proposal, normally in the, I'm very blunt sometimes with, like, normally in the first call, when the first contact, I've already given them an idea. I said it might go up, it might come down once we know more specifics, but you're looking at a ballpark figure of X. And then I always make sure I remember that, because I'm usually not far off. So that if I've said to them 2,000 and the price comes in at 1,900 or just over, it's not a million miles away from where we said. So they've already got some kind of like idea about it. In the old days, I used to wait until we get to the proposal before I gave him a price, and that's when you start to realize, oh no, you're a million miles away from what they want to pay and what you want to do. I have found that if I give them a rough ballpark figure, and again, it's a bit like me assessing them. And I said, I think I mentioned this in last week's thing, where last week someone typed to me on the back of LinkedIn. Literally within the first message, I went back to them. I said, right, what are you looking for? Do you know what your rough spend is going to be? And they said their maximum is 1,000. And I went, okay, that's great, but I can give you what you want, and but I can't give you the SEO for 2,000. So I literally just doubled him up. And after a little bit of exchange of just literally, it's literally just like texting. It wasn't even on a phone call. They went with it. And I spoke to them again on Monday. And on Friday, we're going to get the contract done and dusted, and then we start in 2 weeks' time. And I've doubled it. And it's almost like, and it could have gone two ways. He could have gone, oh, forget it. Yeah, but I wasn't that invested. I didn't contact him. He contacted me. So it's not like I was chasing him. And then the fact he has gone ahead with it, when I go back with the final contract, his actual total comes to 1,930. I'm still in the 2,000 ballpark figure. So it's like, in fact, he thinks he's now getting £70 discount in a way, in a weird way. So, you know, it works for you. It can work for you.
It can. Now Carl's coming back and saying his minimum is 10k. So you can tell he lives. You can tell he lives in Dubai. Yeah. Wow. I mean, I'll be honest. I would love to get 10,000 per project. I would love to get that. I would upgrade this room even more if I got that. But no, I think a lot of it is geographical. It will be based on your clients and where you're based as well. But yeah. But at the same time, though, just going on a tangent. Sorry, I was going to say it's don't. Sometimes based on the value of the website to your client. I mean, I'm giving you figures of 2,000-3,000. Some clients I will go higher. So depending on who they are and what the value is to them and what it's worth to their business, I would always adjust your pricing to your client. You know, don't just charge the same price, you know, to a client that's got the money or the capital. Or a lot of businesses do set aside budgets. You know, like I know, oh God, where is it? Somewhere near Cornwall, they've set aside a budget of £50,000 for a website. Now, I heard about it, but I wasn't going to go in for it. I wasn't that interested in it. But they set aside £50,000, and it was actually a basic website. It was a directory website, but it was very, very basic. But then again, for what it would mean to them and their industry is big. Therefore, you know, exactly. It's all about ROI. It's all about ROI. And I think that the crazy thing is, the higher the budget, the less the client actually wants a lot of the time. And that's kind of like, it seems very strange, because I think when you have lower value clients, you'll tend to find that they're the ones that want everything, including the kitchen sink and someone to actually do the washing up in the sink. Whereas I think the higher the budget, they've done legwork. They've looked into what needs to be done. And I also think there's a lot more to a web design project than just the website. Because a lot of time, what a good client is looking for is the support, the help, the education, the extra things that kind of go with it that are not just the physical, tangible building a website. Because let's be honest about it, it's not difficult to build a typical website. You could put together a good-looking, fast-running, standard website using something like, WordPress. You could put that together in a day or two, and you could charge $5,000 for it. If you've got a client that sees the value in it, like you said, the return on their investment, if they put $5,000 in and they're saying, right, this website now over the next 12 months needs to generate me $100,000 in new client work or leads or whatever it is, $5,000 is a drop in the ocean. That's less than they would pay to do Google ads, Facebook ads, and run that concurrently over that 12-month period, or even do more traditional kind of promotion and advertising. So you kind of really have to look at, when your value kind of proposition comes in, it's not always about the amount of money you charge, whether it's a low amount or a high amount. I think a big part of it comes down to the quality of the client and what the client's expectations are, and understanding that the website is only part of the equation for bigger businesses or people that have a better understanding of the value of what you actually do.
Yeah.
I think, the ones that haggle are the ones that are going to be the clients that are going to be a bloody nightmare. Simple as that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and you are very right, though, that a lot of the low-paying expect everything. And they are almost like the difference between, like, they're going to be the customer in an Indian curry restaurant who are going to whinge if they don't get the right size poppadom. Whereas you're going to have other people who are going to go in and they are happy to spend £100 on a poppadom. You know what I mean? Because for them, yeah, it's not like the value of money is meaningless, but they almost know what they want. And if you're able to get a few details from the client, you can go onto LinkedIn, you can go places and find out more about the business, and you will suddenly see, hey, they've got a really good logo. They've got a company base. They've got so many employees. You can find out so much about them, and some people say, oh, that's weird. Are you going to base just because they've got money, you're going to up your prices? I hate to say it, but that's what happens in real life, okay? That is the reality of it. What is the value to them? Why would you charge the same price to a big multi-million-pound company, as you would to, say, someone who, I don't know, sells flowers in a market store, whatever? So you would adjust it accordingly.
Again, I think it really goes on to the bigger picture. It's very easy to stop and just go, it's a 5-page website. But if that 5-page website has to be highly targeted, designed in a specific way to convert, you've got a funnel in there, you've got your input processes and things like that. There's a lot of things that can go on behind the scenes that are not necessarily something that are front facing. I mean, Carl gives a good example. He sort of says here, let's just say a typical website that could have custom graphics in it. It could be fully SEO with ongoing SEO, with ongoing maintenance, with ongoing feature updates and adding new features and things like that. There's a lot of things that can kind of go on behind the whole process, behind everything. Would you agree?
Yeah, no, sorry.
You just turned your microphone off.
I thought you were going to... no, I did, yeah, No, but yeah, I do completely agree with that, yeah. Because it is... I think it's like... I completely agree with what you're saying there. It is... yeah, I agree. Nothing more to add to that, really.
Well, there we go.
Because I think we've said enough on that, yeah.
And tonight's live stream is now finished. So Kevin asked this question. Your thoughts on using pre-qualifying form like Darryl Wilson's? I've never used Darryl Wilson's, or didn't even know he actually released one, but... if we're going to talk about things like that, I've actually got my own digital product that I will pull up on screen right now, just so I can talk about it quickly, which, if it'll actually put up on screen, it doesn't want to work today. Oh, there we go. Which is basically the same kind of thing, which this is broken down into subsequent different sections. In other words, we've got what we talked about tonight, which is the client questionnaire, which is where you have those questions to start off with as you go through, as you pre-qualify a client, your project proposal that gives you a template and so on that goes into how you'd actually put all this together. So there's benefits to using these kinds of things, and not everybody wants to create them themselves. So that's why I kind of created this myself. This is based upon the exact kind of copies of exactly what I've been using over the last X number of years that have generated tens of thousands in business. So yes, there's a benefit to doing it, but I would always say that it's a starting point, not an end point. You start off with something like this, you take it, you use it, you modify it, you customize it, you tweak it to your own benefits, and then you go from there. So there's benefits to using tools and things like this, because it means that you can hit the ground running without necessarily having to spend a huge amount of time dealing with things you don't necessarily feel comfortable with. For example, like late payments. I mean, we've all had to deal, or we will all have to deal with late payments. So there's like a late payment sequence in there that progressively gets more assertive. Not everybody's comfortable doing that themselves. Not everybody will be comfortable writing that out themselves. So there's benefits to using things that people have created themselves. And if you want to find out more about that, sorry to do the sales pitch a second, Imran, but you had yours at the beginning.
No, go for it. It's your turn.
Thank you very much. You can just go to essentialwebdesignersdocs.com. I'll put the link in the description in a second. Let me just go and grab the details for that, and you can just find out more about it. It's very cost effective, and it just saves you time and a lot of hassle in the long run, not having to do a lot of this yourself, the things you might not be comfortable with. But for example, if we go to the project proposal, there's a full template in there that gives you a complete breakdown of exactly how I've used it, all the different sections, how you should sort of structure the various different parts of it. All that information is in there. You can just take it for what it is, or you can use it as a starting point. But there's, I think, At the last call, I think there's 7 different sections or 7 different items in here. There's a client questionnaire, project proposal, project acceptance, submission guidelines, late payment sequence, project termination, and they're all done in both Word format, so you could just delete what you want and edit it you want, and there's a nicely designed PDF with full instructions how to use everything inside there as well. So if you want to take a look at that, links in the description below this video, and also I've just popped it on the screen, essentialwebdesignerdocs.com. You can go and check that out there. That's my sales pitch. Anyway, so let's go for a little bit of a Q&A session. So I got to press the button because I haven't pressed this for ages. So
oh, that's nice.
I know, that's quite cool, isn't it? I put that together ages ago and haven't actually done anything with it. Anyway, so if anybody's got any questions on what we've covered tonight, please just ask them in the chat section right now. Anything you want to sort of ask us, either of us. It doesn't have to be related to tonight's topic. It could be anything in general about web design, WordPress, those kinds of things. Let us know in the chat as well. So, Michael D, let me just quickly answer your question. What document format is your templates? So, I think I just answered that, but I'll just cover it again anyway. There's a PDF. Let me just explain. There's 2 different versions included in the pack. There's a freelancer's version, so all the wording is based upon a freelancer. And there's a agency stroke company version. So where you want to just change the content, you can see this little parenthesis that you could just change it, but all the wording is changed to be an individual freelancer or an agency where you've got multiple people. It's also included in a fully designed PDF document for each of those. And also there's Word documents for everything. And they're all individual Word documents, so you can simply grab what you want, change the information in there. You can do a search and replace to put your business name, your name, your details, whatever. A couple of minutes and you'll have the template edited to what you want, and then you can use them as they are, or like I say, modify them. Just the late payment sequence is a godsend, because if you don't like handling that side of things, that is nice, because it starts off with this is, you need to pay us, you haven't paid us, right the way through to, well, we're terminating your service. And you don't have to worry about it. It's all polite, it's all professional, and everything is laid out in a nice simple format. And for the Facebook user whose name I don't know, unfortunately, what's the cost of the package? It's £39.99 in pounds. So let me just quickly pull the screen back up a second. We just pulled it in front. You can see £39.99 instant download. Everything is included in it. You can use it as much as you want. No limitations to it. And if you go to the download a free sample, you'll also get a free sample of an extra sequence that's not actually included in this. And I am actually adding additional content, although there's no guarantees of more content. But as I kind of think of things that I think would be useful, more things have been added to it. And it has grown since I released it about 5 weeks ago. So like I say, if you want to find out more about it, you can simply head over to essentialwebdesignersdocs.com and you can grab that from there as well. Anyway, that's hopefully answered that question. Okay, this is a good one. John, how can we make documents more usable for those that struggle with dyslexia? That's a very good question, and I don't have a clue.
Well, I can't remember the name, but there is a particular type of font. You might need to do a search for it, but there is a font that you can use, which it almost looks like a shadow effect on some of the wording, but it's not a shadow effect, but it's apparently meant to make reading for people with dyslexia a little bit easier. I can't remember what it's called, but yeah, there's a font. There's a font. And it's, if you ever go to a lot of dyslexic websites, you'll notice it. And when you first look at it, you look, oh, that looks a bit odd. But actually, it's almost like some of the letters are bulked out a little bit. But if you do a search, you will find it. I know someone who is it dyslexia, something, I don't know, but you can get it. You can custom load it into your websites, and you can use it, because there was someone who sometimes comes onto our live chats. Louis Patride, I think his name is, his surname, if I've got it right. He does come on now and again, and his website is about courses for people with dyslexia. So he does use, I don't know if it's that one, but I can't remember. But yeah, if you go and have a look for it, you will find it. And of course, you can contact, I'm sure there'll be organizations out there. And I'm sure you can see what are they using on their websites and inspect and find out, or just ask them directly as well.
That's cool. It's one of those things that I've never had a need to look into things like that, thankfully. But it's interesting to see there's actually fonts out there that cater to that and make it more accessible to the end user. You know, whether you're sort of like viewing a website or whether you're working with print documents and things like that. I mean, this is the beauty, I think, of the internet these days, and the things we have access to so many incredibly useful things that make websites and things that we do so much more accessible to people, which I think is absolutely amazing. So it's really cool to see that we've got things like that out there so readily available to us. It's pretty cool. Good question, though. Very good question.
It is. Yeah.
Right. What else do we have? I just saw another one now. Daniel Stevens, on the lookout for an SEO proposal template and PPC proposal template currently. There are lots of places that you can kind of go to get proposal templates and things like that. I don't really do SEO or PPC. It's not something I've ever done, so I've never had a need for using something like that. But there are plenty of websites out there and sort of directories that you can purchase these kinds of things from. You probably need to look into how good they are. I know there's one, I can't think of the name of it right now, but I had it as one of my videos a couple of years back on like tools for web designers. And there was a site on there with thousands of different kinds of documents you could buy. And I think the membership was something ridiculous, like $15 per month. So that might be something worth checking out and seeing if they've got those sort of SEO proposals and PPC templates and things like that. For the sake of $15, where you can have a good search around it and find out, is it, you know, does it have something you want on there? Is it useful? It's a pretty low investment to kind of test things out and see if there's anything that's useful to you. So I would recommend doing something like that.
Yeah, or you could just ask ChatGPT to give you.
Or you could just ask ChatGPT.
Oh, no.
That's very true. That's your bloody answer to everything
These days, you know. It is. I love it. I always say shorten this, and I put a paragraph in and just see if it chucks off 1 or 2 words so I can fit it into a box while I'm building something out. Oh, it now fits. Brilliant.
To be honest, it's one of the things that I've done as well. It's like I suck at sort of promotional writing and sort of sales copy and things like that. Yeah. So I'll write out roughly what I want, and then I'll dump it into ChatGPT and I'll ask it to rewrite it in a certain tone of voice or to a certain kind of demographic. Yeah. And 9 times out of 10, it comes back with something way better than I would have come out with. So it is pretty useful. It is very useful. Yeah. Crystal, so interesting. I wonder if there's any ADA plugins to do this too. There probably is going to be something like that out there. I mean, accessibility is definitely becoming something that a lot more people are becoming aware of, and a lot more companies are looking at ways in which they can make sites and content more accessible. So I wouldn't be surprised if there is some form of dyslexic, sort of dyslexia, like verbal dyslexia. I think
I'm gonna pop her name. So I've just popped in the name Anne Meek Beauvelet. She works a lot with Elemental. She's very well known on the WordPress circuit. Accessibility. She really knows her stuff. Yeah. If you can just do a search for her on Facebook, she will have some kick-ass answers for you. Really, really nice person. But yeah, she's a good one to seek out.
She's very heavily into the accessibility side of things for definite at the moment, and definitely worthwhile. Sort of like just having a little look at what she's put out there. Just if I can actually find some information about it, because I know she's got a website. But have a look. If you go onto this sort of the Facebook group for Elementor, then you'll definitely find she'll be on there because she's pretty pretty big in there, and also on Twitter. She's regularly up on Twitter. If anybody wants to know, just sort of like drop a message or sort of ping us sort of like a comment and thing below, and one of us will sort of reply back with a link through to her website and so on. So if you need that, just let us know. Okay. I'll take this as the last sort of question. Francisco, what's your opinion on no-code or low-code tools? I mean, I suppose we could say no-code would be something along the lines of Canva, their sort of new web designy type of thing. Low-code tools, I mean, I suppose technically you could say any kind of page builder in WordPress is a low-code tool. Thoughts?
Do you know what? I'm at that point where I don't really care if it's low code or no code. I just want it to give me a solution to what I want to achieve. So however it does it, like right now, do any of us really understand how ChatGPT can like shorten a paragraph? Like I literally today said, rewrite this, but just remove 1 word because I want to keep the length of it. And it did it. It took away 1 word and it did it in a nice way. I don't know how it does it, but it's almost like, I mean, you know, it's you know, it's a bit like bread, right? You got low carb bread and you got high carb bread. I don't care as long as it tastes good. I don't care how you made it. So,
Bread.
unless it's something I need to worry about. So if there's a problem, do I have to get dirty with the code? Then I would want to make sure I understood what I was doing. But if I don't need to worry about the inner workings of how it does what it does, I just kind of go, yeah, I'm okay with it. And you could say that about plugins. You know, how many plugins do we use? Do we even have an iota of like understanding what would you do if something broke? We normally just load a backup or something. Yeah.
Find a new plugin.
Yeah.
Okay. Atif, unfortunately, you caught us right at the time where we're just actually going to start to call it a night. So, unfortunately, it's a hello and a goodbye. So,
it does not surprise me. This is RT through and through. This is RT through and through. Just turns up. Just you know, no good reason.
Unfashionably late.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let me just wrap things up a minute just to say thank you so much for everybody joining us tonight. It's been an interesting conversation between myself and Imran. If you found value in what we've talked about tonight, give us a thumbs up. It does help the algorithm and just lets us know that YouTube knows that you like what we're doing. Imran, final call. How can people find out a bit more about you, and how can they find out about the course that you have on offer right now?
Yeah, well, just do a search for Web Squadron in YouTube. You'll find our YouTube channel and our videos. We tend to be live Monday to Friday, so if you want to drop in and have a conversation with us about basically WordPress and anything else. And you will notice a little black button over there that says Learn with us, where we've got our super course on how to start a web design business. Whether you're a new business or a veteran business, it doesn't matter. There's loads of hints and tips in there for you. But hey, we're Web Squadron. We love helping you all out. We love to share. We love to laugh. We love to dance and other stuff too. I don't think there's anything more I can say, really.
I'm still waiting for the dancing part because I've never seen that in a live stream. But okay.
No, you don't want to. You don't want to. No, I'd fall over.
Bust a move. Anyway, thank you once again for joining tonight. We'll be live again next Wednesday, same time, 8 p.m. GMT. If you'd like to join us, be sure to come over and get involved in the chat, conversation, and so on. It's always great to have you here. Take care. Look after yourself this evening. Hope you're doing really, really well, and we'll see you all same time next week. Take care.
Take care. Bye.